We're good to go. All right, I call the meeting order. Larry, will you lead some prayer, please?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, in the precious name of Jesus, Father, we thank you for this day, Father. Just thank you for being God all by yourself. We just ask your presence in this meeting today, Father, that what may be done in this meeting today will be done in order, Father. And we give your name all the honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the workshop meeting agenda.
I have something that's, a document that's been given to me that I asked that we need to table item 5A for, today and remove that from the agenda.
I need a motion for that.
I make the motion that we table 5A, control fox pen, fox hunting reserve.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. Moving forward. 5B. Lisa?
All right, we will begin. On your table in front of you, we have the zoning ordinance that has been prepared by Code Right Planning, and we have the first three sections basically of 155, part 1, 2, and 3. And what we want to do today, I know it's a lot, I hope it's not too overwhelming, and how it's set up, I think, was the best way to start this. And hopefully we can get through, I think just basically getting through how the setup is, what to look for, what has been added, what's been deleted, what's been combined. And that's what a lot of it is. 160D was done by statute of the General Assembly. I know y'all heard me say that. You're probably getting tired of me saying that. But it's mandated. We have to have this adopted by July 1st. So we're going to start our review, and this is what has come of that. I think a lot of you probably know what our ordinances have looked like in the past. And they, they were a little, not that they weren't good, I mean, it is what it is. We kind of had those over the years, and we kept adding to them. We kept doing text amendments. But as it went on, we had 4 or 5 different things that we were looking at. So what I think, and what I know we're accomplishing now, is we have combined like 3 different sections together. As Chad explained at the last meeting, I think he was here for you all to know. And so it's easier to follow. It's not so ambiguous. You would see one thing referenced, then you would have to go to 2 other chapters, and they might not coincide. So this is what this is taking care of. So that is what we're going to start going over. What I think is the most important is the uses. And I wanted you all to feel comfortable. I know some questions came up. I think Mr. Silence even asked me, Chair Silence, sorry. We're going to get to one use that I think is big. And I know you all have a lot of questions as to the plan development. That's in here. But I'm going to try to explain it a little bit, and I think it would be good for Yates County if used. You don't have to use it. It can be in here, but it's not necessarily something we may use. But if it's needed, I think you all have seen enough of some things that go on in the county that it may be beneficial. And I hope you agree. But if you look at your first article there, it says Chapter 155 zoning at the top. And it says Article 155.1, the zoning districts. And just, you can read, again, I know you all have seen for probably in the other document too. And how it's set up is you have some footnotes in the gray at the bottom. And what that does is that tells you how everything is organized. So if y'all would like me to read that now, I will. Or if you feel comfortable in taking that home and reading that as you go through the document, I'll go on and start with the zoning districts. And not every little change, then y'all can take this home and come back with your questions, if you want it changed. Because what we have to do in the end is submit one document with all the changes back to Chad and Cody Road. So how would you like to proceed? And go and do this. I mean, it's up to you. You know, I just want everybody to feel comfortable with it when we go through it. And if you have any questions, you bring those back to the next meeting if you'd like. It's completely up to you. Or if you want to take a look at it.
I mean, for the sake of time, we can probably read most of this at home, and then you can just hit the big points, and then.
Well, that's fine. Now, a lot of these are mandated, again, by 160D. The other changes are just to help make this easier for us as a county to go through and to administer. So I'm going to move on. The zoning districts, again, are like your A1, your R1, your C1, your commercial, agricultural, residential, manufactured home districts, things like that. The first part of this whole section tells you what the flood insurance maps, it's things we adopt naturally through this process are the flood maps, the zoning map, that's the things you have to do. And I have to keep those in the office, or they'll be on GIS now, which is another thing that 160D has said that is acceptable, that is legally correct. So we'll have all of that there for people to be able to access. And it just, the other typical things or the responsibility for the maintenance is in our office. We're scrapping out hard, that's where it is. District boundaries are the boundaries of each and every one of those districts. And then that goes through, just to sum it up, that goes through like if one boundary crosses another, you have to make a determination. So that's there, just so you know that. But I'm going to go on page 155-5 there at the bottom, where it says 155.107 zoning districts established. This is where I think the whole meat of our whole county is. And that's with our agricultural, commercial districts, industrial, office and institutional. And as you see in red, that's new. That's the plan development, which we'll get to the explanation of that. R1, the residential district, which we have that, we just made sure that name was there. We've always had the R1, it's just a residential district. RMF, multifamily district, what he did is he marked out the R1 and moved that up, so that's just a move. He deleted that one and then added it right back in, it's on top there. Then the RNH, manufactured home district. And then you see the notes at the bottom, that's add, again, it explains the plan development districts are applied to individual lots or developments, each with its own unique plan development district. And I would hit that first, but it's close to last. I mean, if you want to hit it first, we can. If you want me to explain plan development districts first.
I want to ask that question.
Okay, you want that first?
Plan development. Going forward, I can understand, all right.
You understand all the other.
If somebody was to go out there and say, all right, I have a plan development here, this is what I want to do. I buy 200 acre farm. And my plan development is I'm gonna put 150 double wide mobile homes on. Is that gonna be considered residential manufactured home district or plan development?
That's the beauty of plan development. That is the beauty of it. It has to be approved. All the burden is on the applicant that's requesting this. Every single improvement is before the applicant. Everything has to go through the governing board. They don't have to approve it. If they didn't like the person that, and I hate to say it, but this who is presenting this plan development, there, you have no reason to say no. They have to meet all these standards that are on 155 page 11, the plan development. It's not, I don't want to say it's so simple, but it's the standards they have to meet. It's almost, that's the conditions. It's like a rezoning in a way. We're not gonna come out here, out the gate when this is approved, and I say, 122 Main Street and all that surrounding property is a plan development. That's not so. It has to go through that process of a plan development with all the plans ahead of time. Nothing but, it can be phased development. It has to be approved from the, they have to show you everything. There is nothing up for a guess.
So we
As
get,
an example, maybe like an industrial park, and they want to come back and rezone it later. No. If this is what this plan development was, it's going to be this way, this was your best concept plan, it's going to stay there. They make all of this up front, and that's that plan development. And the governing boards, they have to approve that at that time. And it doesn't change. That's what the promise is, bond, whatever, put up at that time.
at this time on the plan development, do we also get to say that you have to put the roads into certain standards? You have to put the
Yes.
water, utilities,
And they
everything?
can put up all the infrastructure improvements you can require for that, water, sewer, ahead of time. They have to do that.
Okay.
Again, that's the beauty, and they're not showing in the beginning that just one thing. No, we vote no.
Okay.
That's what plan development, because there might be something one day that comes along that we don't have, the properties zoned for. And someone comes along and buys, 300 acres or 13. And it looks good, it may be something that the county and the constituents, everybody has a chance to come and speak and for, against, maybe something that we like. I mean, it may be that one thing that comes along that the boards and people agree to. Maybe that one good thing, we never know, we don't, truly never know. But that is, again, the beauty. And you see that flexibility, there's a purpose and intent for plan development, and you see that the flexibility offered. So that's something to, please look at that. I think, with where I think the county may want to go, I'm not saying they're going to go, but they want to go in a direction, doesn't mean you have to go full tilt, Virginia Beach or something like that. We can have these options that could be phased possibly if they meet these milestones. If they don't meet them, then they don't go to that next phase. That could all be a part of that. So I think that's something to really think about for maybe some future things that we would like, but you have some control over that if you think. So just something, food for thought on that. I think that could help us in a lot of ways. Let's see. And the districts, I think all of you understand what they are. That was the big one that's been added, that we do not have an option to have currently. But again, it's not, we don't have that yet. That we have to be planned. We're not gonna come out of the gate and say, oh, we have a PD district, but we don't. We don't have one. Don't know if we will have one. Maybe one day. But it's an option that's there. So, again, I want you to feel comfortable with that. I think it's a great, flexible, but yet it still requires a lot. They don't really have to show you a lot before you approve something like that, but you have that, don't want to say control, but you do have some. They don't have to approve, there's no reason. You don't have to meet this criteria like with a special use permit. A special use permit, somebody wants to put something on a piece of land and it's by special use permit, if they meet those 4 criteria, you have to approve it. With this, it's not like that. Again, that's the biggies. Any questions about the districts? I mean, again, I think y'all can go right through it and read it. And in the front, again, it tells you about what blue line, what's Because like in, let's do in agricultural on the use district, just turn it that way, Clayton. Because I don't want y'all to get confused, let me try that, because that'll be a good example to show you. Agricultural district. If you read that purpose and intent of the agricultural district, on page 155-6. If you read that, and where I see where some questions may come in is, if you read that, it talks about residential. Like if you wanted to build a house, that could be a little confusing when you read that, maybe. So I'll give you just a second to read that. I can send on this. Just let me know when you're ready. Do you think it's kind of hard to understand, like, if you can put a house on that when you read that?
Explain the last part of it with residential use.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna do now. The residential use seems a little difficult to understand
Yeah.
that. Well, where you find that answer in this, when you look at these districts, and again, I hate to make you keep turning pages, but this is how to understand it. If you go to page 155-28, might be in your other one it's called the, Article 155.2 uses. So it should be page 155-28. So you read your district, all right? In order to interpret what uses can happen in your districts, I'll let y'all turn, y'all tell me when you're ready. This is called a table of permitted uses, okay? So you got your districts at the top, R1, RMH, C1, I1, A1. So we were looking at A1. So you take that column right there, and you go down to single-family dwelling on the left. It's right under residential uses. So let's say you're looking at the single-family dwelling, and you go on over to that column for A1. A P means permitted by right. So in your A1 district, if there's any question, that's what's permitted by right. No questions asked in an A1 district, you can have a residential home in that district. We have to do this by law now. Our other table, just because something isn't in there, or it had a blank in the box, it used to be that use is prohibited. You can't leave it up to that anymore. So now, everything has to either say prohibited by the law, or either special use permit, permitted, and that A under that PD district, that's a key thing to look for too, in that development district there. If you see A means at the top, it says, if included in a PD master plan or terms and condition document. So remember that plan development thing? Unless they set it in that document, in that master plan, they don't get to have it. That's some more of those conditions that we've never been able to put on rezonings or anything. Here we go, we're now gonna have it. And wow, that's something grand. But in A1, when you read that and you have any questions, what's permitted in that A1, you go to the use you're trying to find. And residential, I thought, hey, when I read that, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be hard to understand. People can put a residence on the farm, you know? And this is what tells you, yes, you can, most certainly. So is this making any sense in how to use it?
I can see that, but I also see what something else here that seems to be coming back to bite us in the butt.
Okay, well, tell me, because I have a feeling that other people say.
Single wide trailers being permitted,
Single wide trailers, so.
special use,
They've always been special use.
but,
In agriculture, yes. And A1, R1, they're not allowed at all, it's prohibited, but they are by special use now. Manufactured homes, single wide and open, are by special use. They have to go in front of the board of adjustment. They pay $700 for the special uses, and it has to be advertised. They do that now. I will tell you this, and this isn't in this document yet, it'll be in the final chapter enforcement. North Carolina law, you have to allow temporary granny pods. Y'all heard of those? You heard of granny pods? You have to allow people to take care of their aging or ailing mother, father, family, whatever it may be. You have to do that. So you will see that. So that's not a tiny home. People will see it and they think that. Granny pods have to be made available as an option to people. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. But it's
but do they have certain size limits on granny pods?
There will be, but the building code, I think, has been modified to some things too, and I can't speak for that exactly. He told me that yesterday. He said, so, make them aware, it's not in this, it'll be in the final chapter because of enforcement and all that. And again, it's temporary.
And
It doesn't have to be permanent.
the reason why I asked that, because I just had somebody this morning call me from the city of Suffolk wanting me to wire a granny pod
Yeah, so,
20 by 20, and I'm sitting there going, in the city of Suffolk. And I know they're more stringent than what they are over here. And I said, I don't think I want any parts of that.
yeah, I don't know about Virginia, but in North Carolina, it's mandated now. Another thing, the churches, you remember that RULIPA that he brought up in the last meeting, it's RLUIPA, like you can't, you have to allow churches, fraternal organizations, I think daycares, church daycares. Like you can't say you can't allow a fraternal organization where a church can't be, and things like that. And so like before, like you'll see in here, churches are allowed everywhere, and there's some changes. Like he said, what do you want to do with a children's daycare? I said, well, I can't see a daycare in an industrial situation, so we will not allow those in industrial areas. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, you know? So we have to keep in line with that law, so that'll change. We got, don't have that here, but he was asking those questions. If you feel different, that is something y'all can change. I just said, I don't see it in an industrial area, so I would take that out and make those ones. Because having children in an industry just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong. But those will be some changes.
Well, that's something as the world is changing. I mean, more and more parents are working away from home and carrying the kids and having daycare at the work site. I mean, no, I can't see a daycare in a sawmill situation, but off the premises, across the road, away from the equipment and stuff, yeah, possibly. But still be on the same industrial area site.
For So, again, we'll get to that. I want y'all's input on that. I was just giving him some thoughts to mine, because he was asking me the question. But it's something for all of us to decide, or all of you to decide about. But, you know, with what we're mandated to do, I mean, it's good to know those things enough to do. We cannot discriminate against either or. They have to be allowed in the same place. So that's just some thoughts. But is it helping to understand how this kind of worked out, and y'all can go through it? Is that good? Is there anything that you feel like you want me to go over anymore? I will. Those are the biggest things. When you get towards the back, I think the accessory structures, that's going to document what we were talking about, unless you have the primary use already on the parcel. That's there. So, I mean, there's small changes, just things that will help us. But overall, the only things have been combined, and he explains that in his footnotes. Always remember those footnotes, and if there's a footnote number at the top, there should be one at the bottom to look at, and it should explain things and why the thought behind it, the theory. Do y'all feel comfortable with going through it at this point on your own? Well, you tell me if you want to do it, as much as you want. And yet you can take the three parts apart and put them together. We just did that because that's how they were sent. So we know that.
I feel like if you still got some points you wanna make, you know, you need to go ahead with that.
Those were my biggest ones. So is there
Okay.
anything y'all tell me, anything y'all want to know? Anything, Brian, I know you've been looking at, anything you want me to go over specifically?
No, I actually think it's pretty crisp.
Is it flowing?
Yeah.
Good. Now, see, this is the markup document, red line. I do have a clean document, you know, but I thought just that this would be where I'll change it. Yeah, let's see what else. The districts are pretty tight. And we've got, you know, for each and every district, if you'll notice, I really like this because we had the dimensional standards in one place that, you know, just was bunched together. Now it's listed separately with the footnotes of what each and every one means and what each and every requirement would be, where setback lines are measured, which we did not have, which we had a lot of questions about. So it was a lot was left up to interpretation, and sometimes there, you know, some heated discussions in the office about why, what happened, and I understand that. But now we've got something to hang our hat on, which I think is wonderful. And it helps a lot for administration of the ordinance. And definitely, it makes it clear to the folks out there, when you send the ordinance to them, I think that will help a lot. Leaves nothing up to chance, you know, or a lot less, I should say. Just like the residential district, for the multifamily, it's got like the maximum number of units for any single development is 72. So multifamily housing, 72 units is the most you can have. We've got one out there, y'all familiar, we have an RM about 72 out there in the Merchants Island, as an example, so we do have that. That's the maximum number that's allowed. Anything that comes in and has to have a special use permit, those notes are really valuable when it comes to anybody, you know, wants to do a multi-family unit, you know. Having those dimensional standards helps a lot, for certain. And the maximum density, that has been something that we have not had before, really good to have. Especially in the multi-family. And we've added townhomes, because we got some questions on the multifamily, do you allow townhomes, things like that. Well, we couldn't say no, because we didn't have a prohibited. And now we know, you know, you can have them, but with special, you know, requirements. things like that. He has added specific things for cell towers in here. It really hasn't changed from what we had, or it adds a little more due to law. That's by session law as well, and what's required for telecommunication towers. It's a little more stringent probably than what we have, it's no less. And we still have, some of our bonding. Solar farms are still in there, he just renamed it to what the general statutes call solar farms. Because now they're called, we don't have a table of contents yet, so I'm still having to do it too.
Solar energy conversion system
There you
major.
go, there you go. So instead of saying farm, you went with what exactly North Carolina law and statutes call that. So we would be consistent.
All right, I got a question for you.
Okay?
Under cemetery,
Cemetery, you good one.
under A1, it's a special use permit. I think that's right. Cemetery. No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, special use permit. Cemetery, A1. I'm on page
Yeah.
5528,
What'd you say?
5528.
2-8, okay, I'm at the notes for cemetery on 155-47. Let me see. You're on 2-8, oh, you're on uses still.
Yeah, under
Yeah,
uses.
the notes are on 155-47. Let's see. Yeah, that's nothing new, he didn't change anything there, so that's current. Now, family cemetery is different, you know,
Well, let's just say if,
that's exempt, as a matter of fact. These are for, like commercial cemeteries. like
yeah, I can
maybe
understand
some-
that, but I'll just say, I have a family farm, and if I want to be buried on my family farm, do I have to go get a special use permit to have myself buried right now?
No, you're not making a cemetery for other, that's your private cemetery. Anybody, I could have myself buried in my front yard as long as I'm away from the water source. That is North Carolina law.
Okay.
What's involved in this, getting a special permit?
Just going in front of the board, and that, those are for cemeteries, and again, the notes are on 155-47. New cemeteries and the expansion of cemeteries as a principal use. Your house is on your property, so that's the principal use. If it was just gonna be on, like, cemetery down here, that would have to go through. Yeah. So people, for the maintenance of it, and to make sure the widths are right for people to get the hearses down, and, you know, people that are gonna come and visit. So it is like that now, that's not new. Yeah, family cemeteries and things like that are exempt, actually.
Now, if the church has an existing cemetery and they want to enlarge the cemetery, do they have to get any kind of permits to do that?
That is on, that's on page 155-47, the new cemeteries and the expansion of existing as a principal use. Now, if the church is there as the principal use, now if they have it on a separate parcel, then we have to call this. But if the church is the principal use, so.
Okay.
It should be fine. So, you know, that's where it comes into these, a solid parcel with an area of at least 2.5 acres and things. This standard shall not apply to existing cemeteries or the expansion of existing cemeteries. So that's where your notes come into play, when they've got that, you know, the definitions, you've got like, what do you call this?
He's done a pretty good job of putting his notes and stuff in it to explain.
Do what?
I say he's done a good job of putting like his footnotes in it to explain.
And he's done a really, I think he's done really good.
That's a big help.
I think it really helps us as a county, again, to have answers and to be able to be responsible with our county, to be able to help people when it comes to that, but not, not so strict, but enough to keep things hopefully in line and fair to everyone. Yeah, the standards, I can't read the blue, it's use-specific standards, right after the special use statement. He changed the name of it, it used to be, permitted uses, the table, notes, the table of permitted uses. Is there anything else that stands out, maybe, that I can go over? Like I said, once you get the feel for it and kind of how it's set up, it'll go well. And you see all this blue, you see that's pages you won't have to read, that's from the old ones. So, I still put them in there, just so you know what was on.
Best to do is do like you've got it in a notebook.
Yeah, do we have any notebooks? Well, you think we got any extra, like, notebooks?
Yes.
Didn't mean to wake you up. You can go down to Dollar General and get like 7 of them. No, just have them by the next meeting.
If you want them at the next meeting, we can bring the notebooks and the whole bunch and everybody help each other out. How about that? How about that? We'll help each other out, get them in there for them. But we just got all of this, the red lines last night, so we did, it took a long time just to get all this stuff.
Now, when you're looking at the, say this chart, it gives you the permitted and special permits and all.
Yeah.
In order to find answers like we just did there, how do you know where to go look at?
At the notes? Okay.
You know, like for the cemetery, how do you know about where?
Where's the appendix?
Yeah.
They'll have an appendix and a table of contents, which will help a lot. And he'll add some footnotes like it, it's right after the permitted uses, and it should be in order. And that's the order, last page here. Okay. It should be in order like it's written. And there will be a whole lot more
Okay,
to reference that. I'm getting to the beginning.
after all this is approved,
And once you approve.
after we approve it and the county commissioners approve it, then half of this is going away.
Yes, everything in blue.
Everything, so then we should get a new copy.
Oh, yes. You're gonna
So
get-
Scott, you got to, we get a new copy to get the notebooks.
You're gonna get some, I have made sure that was in the bid
Yeah, that's a
price
good idea.
when we did it with the consultant.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
We get
this way you
bound
get the new
copies
copy.
for everybody
Yeah.
on this planning board that's here currently, y'all will get a bound copy. That, Chad would co-write it doing that, and that was in the price. Again, okay, let me answer your question. Let's see if I got it set up, because we don't have everything here. Let's see what we got.
These,
Okay, it's by, see how this is? You've got agricultural uses, residential uses. At the beginning of each one, there's an A, like residential use, see that on 155 page 34? At the top it says residential uses, that coincides with the chart that says residential uses. There's like a gray bar across the top. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, that's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll give us a second, we're having that.
Yeah, they can't hear me. I don't know, you gotta give me time, I'm just gonna. Okay, we're good, there we go. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, you see that gray line, Reggie, where it says residential uses? It starts with agricultural uses, a gray line across the table of the permitted uses. There's a gray line that says agricultural uses, then it goes down right below wholesale nurseries, and there's residential uses, a gray line on that chart.
This is 155-34.
Yeah, well, 155-28, I'm trying to show Reggie where we've got these gray lines on the chart. This is how they're coinciding. Okay, when you go back to the end of the chart where those explanations are, they start off with, there's none for agricultural. They're pretty self-explanatory. There's no more definitions. So residential uses is A. So that's coinciding with the residential uses in the chart. That's how we'll look those up. It's got like the duplex, family care home, group home, manufactured homes as we go on. It gives you just those extra notes like the cemetery. Then the cemetery on that chart is under institutional uses, cemetery. So when I get to the institutional uses, the standards, that was on page what, 38, 47, I think, sorry. Yeah, and on page 155-47, institutional uses is at the top of that page in gray as well. That's how we got to the cemetery. And it's listed in those same order, okay? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's how that'll be
Now,
lined up.
on that same chart,
Mm-hmm,
where it lists the residential, agricultural, when you look across all the way to the right,
mm-hmm.
and use specified standards, what's those emblems, what does that mean? Does that mean anything, or?
Yeah, those will be used possibly later and added new. That's like a placeholder, he said. And if they fill those in and like anything, page numbers or notes, that once this is done, is what that'll be. If it's a use-specific standard that'll be applied to that, he will put those in there at that time, like if there's a note or a page number, because we may not have all those in order yet, just because of how he's setting it up. Okay. So that was a good question, because that way we know how to go through it. Like I said, it's new for me too, so that helped me as well. But yeah, so the telecommunication towers are new. And then he renamed the solar farms just to a new name, did not change the standards that were in place. Outdoor advertising and signs are new as well, and that's in the back. So remember, that is completely new. Signs and landscaping. That's something we did not have in our current ordinance, but due to law in North Carolina, there was a law and a case that was brought against someone. I do not know the case name right offhand. I thought I could tell you. Yesterday I knew it. But we needed some sign standards. And they're basic. It's nothing hard to do. And the landscaping standards are very fair. We also have some fence standards. They will have to get a zoning permit now for fences, not on farms. They will nothing required on the farms, just to let you know. But I do have to say, we have a lot of folks out there trying to use pallets for a fence. They cannot do that anymore. They'll have to meet a standard of like a manufactured fence, an engineered fence, let's say, and it has to meet some standards of what a true fence means. And again, that's in there. It's not hard to find, hard to do. They still meet the same requirement of 4 foot in the front yard, can't go over 4 foot in the front yard, and they can go 6 feet in the rear. And the 4 foot is for emergency vehicles or emergency responders to see what's going on, and, you know, if they needed to be there. They can't block sight triangles or make something hazardous for, you know, a car. If they pulled up on a corner and somebody had a fence, they can't get into the sight triangle, things like that. So that's new. We had an ordinance, we have some fence language in our current ordinance, but it was not clear. And I've got people out there putting silt fence up as a permanent fence. It's not meant for that. And you know, that kind of deteriorates over time and it looks terrible.
You mentioned something about, the fences, like preventing, being able to see, like coming up to an intersection. Is, plants and shrubs, would that be anything that addresses that in that too?
It is. They cannot go or encroach into that sight triangle as well. They cannot encroach onto certain sight distances, again.
Where is those restrictions at as far as the distances? Is that in that too?
That will be in, that's in there. You'll see that in there, again, if they're not exactly what you want, we'll talk about it, but they're kind of elementary. We don't want to make it so difficult, but those types of things are in there, because we know when things grow, they hang over, you know, enough where you might not be able to see oncoming traffic, and it's a safety issue. So we would require people who have to plant those and do that they would maintain them, so that is in there. But yeah, the fencing, the landscaping, and the signs, they are there. Again, as you heard in the last time I was here, we needed those things, especially the signage. That was something that, you know, needed to be there. But that's the biggest thing. Again, any questions for me? I'm gonna let y'all throw some out now if you need anything.
I had a question asked me the other day. Does a person has a residential home and they do landscape work, cut trees and cut brush, and then they come back and they pile the trash in the yard? Is there any restrictions on that?
So you're saying like if they have a tree cutting business and they're bringing back all the trash where they go somewhere and bring it back and put it in their yard, that is solid waste, yes. They need to call us.
So
Yeah.
there is a restriction that they cannot do that.
Yeah, they shouldn't be bringing it home and just putting it in their yard to, you know, collect. You know, this time of year, grass grows around it, gets high, vermin, things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
You can call Frank Cook, 1704 is his extension, and he'll be more than happy to go check on it.
Say Frank Cook.
Anything else? And then the enforcement chapter's coming in the next update, the last and final chapter that Chad will be sending. So you will see some more enforcement for zoning, not for other things like the solid waste and junkyards. That's already done, but this is enforcement for this, for the zoning. It's
So
not.
who's gonna enforce it?
Good question.
I mean, really?
Me and Scott and Frank. And it falls on me right now. It'll be interesting to see the enforcement chapter. It may be something, you know, later on that we'd have to get some help on.
So we're gonna have to hire somebody else who's gonna go out there and do.
Well, I hope not, but that's something we can discuss later. It'll be up to the commissioners to enforce it. Yeah, they'll get this. They approve this.
But I know we have so many ordinances now that are not getting enforced. I mean, what difference does it make?
That's all gonna change when I put up my radio station. We're gonna talk about Gates County politics.
All right. You and Harold.
Hurry up, get it done.
There you go.
Is there anything else? Do you feel comfortable with going through it? And us coming back to the next meeting with any changes?
Is there anything in this thing that is not covered? As far as, you know, your different, like residential, what you can do, and institutional, and it's got a whole list of a lot of stuff.
It does, I know, and I know it seems like a lot, but hopefully we've covered what the county needs. I mean, again, it was an update. This is an update to the current ordinances. Some have been around since, gosh, probably 30 years, and it was just updated, just recopied, you know, brought into another ordinance. So this is updating it to fit now to what we're seeing. I mean, the county's growing, and we just want to keep it nice. We want to move into the, you know, to the 21st century, of course, and it's fit well. We have, I think, you know, we've moved along well. There's nothing wrong with updating it either. So, no, we want to do it respectfully and fairly and transparency as well.
It's just a lot of information in there, and of course, going through it, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, pretty much if you go through it, so. It's
pretty interesting in one sense, when you look and see the regulations, how they read, and what they are.
There's a whole lot simpler reading after you get rid of all that stuff in there that we don't need to have.
Right, that's right. So I think it's gonna be all right in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Well, we're happy to hear that.
You say it's 30 years since this has been done?
Some of them, I mean, they have just been copied over, and then some things were added along the way, some text amendments and things, but yeah, they had kept on. The one development ordinance that was in there, I think, was 1986. Sure was.
I can remember when I first started farming, it's really changed since I first started farming. The techniques and everything, the way we do things now, so, you know, you've got to change. You got to change and improve.
And you, I mean, you all know, if you don't, it'll change for you. And you want to try to have a part in it, definitely. Well, if there's nothing else, then y'all can call with any questions, or if you want to sit down and come in the office, I can arrange a time where any of you, you want to come sit down and ask some questions or go over something, I'm there, and I do not mind doing that either, to answer anything you've got, or, how it's structured, anything, we can do that.
Can we as committee people talk amongst ourselves about the regulations like they are? Have our own conversation? Is that allowed or not allowed?
I think as long as there's not over a quorum, I mean, you're welcome to talk, but as long as you don't meet.
No, if I saw Larry and then we got questions,
If
you know.
That's a good example of it. As long as there's not a quorum.
So no more than 4, or no more than 3.
Anything that would cause you to.
So 3 of us could get together and the 4th person could stand 10 foot away.
They'd be sitting in the same room, that don't mean they're playing cards.
That's right. That's right.
But just remember, again, like I told you, we have to put everything in one place when we send it to change. That was the one thing in our contract. And I understand that. But we can do that, I'll do that, we'll get it together. But I appreciate y'all sitting here and taking the time to go through it, and hopefully it's a good understanding. And if there's any questions, we're here.
What is our goal for when we meet next?
Our next meeting is April the 20th. If we could have that, your reviews, if you feel comfortable that you can do that, that would be we've got to get it to the board of commissioners. You've already seen the subdivision ordinance, that was when he came and talked about the last time, we kind of highlighted on this. So then that goes along with this, that's part of this. So we went over that, make everybody feel fine with that. But this is the biggie.
And you want the decision on if we should implement the plan development on the 20th? Like, you want to put that in
Yeah,
here?
yes, we need to do that, so we can get things to him, so what we want to do is present it to the Board of Commissioners, so they have some time, and then they will go for the adoption of the document.
So we should be getting the final draft, next time, next meeting? Or in May?
Well, the final draft will come, so you all say.
You're not gonna get the final draft until after the county commissioners approve it,
Then you'll get a final document, and with everything bound for you, like I said.
Okay.
you might get that, let me see, October, November.
Now, he'll have it done hopefully right after July.
Well, it's gotta be approved by July the
It's
first.
got to be adopted by the Board of Commissioners and implemented by July.
Okay.
How much has not been done yet on this thing? I think
He
you said that a
this
while ago.
Enforcement, there's probably, he said we have 110 pages, the enforcement and the procedures for the boards. He's supposed to have that to me by the end of this week. If you would like to have another workshop, or if you would like to do this one, whatever you think you can do. I think the other things, this was the, I want to call it the bulk of the things that you've done. Procedures and things like that are basically what you're doing now, and what has to be done by 160D, you have no choice. Such as the oaths, everybody has to take an oath, and how procedurally, what we have to do, it's written for us, that's nothing, we have no choice. These were things that we have a little bit of control over, and what we like to see, and what we're basically doing already too. So, that's how I feel.
What else do we have coming up on the 20th of April?
The two rezonings.
Is the Fox pens being added to that, or is that just table, that's just off the, okay. Are you able to send out I like to know the procedures and all that, are you able to just send those to us, or?
I will be more than happy to send those to you so we can come back, because that should be self-explanatory. And I'll be more than happy, if it doesn't seem that way, I will call them and explain anything. But I would like to come back with any changes too. And then we can, after the rezoning hearings, let's talk about it if there's any questions. And I'll sit here and go over it with you too. And if it's late, I'll even bring some dinner or something. How about that? How about that? Hopefully it shouldn't be late. So April 20th? Good?
I'm gonna try. Okay. We'll try.
Okay, I know. But I will still, we can get in touch sometime. If there's any questions, I'm there, okay?
Yeah.
All right, then, April 20th, I'll get things to everybody. And when I can get that from Chad, I will forward it on.
A lot of stuff to us will be go.
But remember, it's something we'll have in our county for quite a while.
Yeah.
Make sure y'all feel good about it. Thank you.
Any more comments?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Brian.
Done.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Very much.
Thank you,
I was
Scott.
pointing that way.
I know it's a little.